Hello, and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, I got new glasses. Please tell me that I'm beautiful and gorgeous in the comments down below. It's also my birthday on Sunday, so this is the last podcast episode I am recording as a 26-year-old. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what I'm going to title this. I normally say, as the title suggests, I'm talking about X, Y, and Z, but I'm kind of going to ramble about a bunch of shows. Timestamps will be in the description. So I don't know yet what the title is going to be because it'll really depend what I talk about the most, what I don't end up talking about, but I imagine there'll be more shows that I talk about, unless I really ramble about one show in particular or another, and I only end up talking about like two shows. I imagine that the title will not have all the shows that I talk about because I have a lot that I want to say and a lot of different shows that I kind of want to bop around. So, timestamps in the description, check the chapters below, all that great stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, I'm going to start with my thoughts on the Survivor seasons that I've been watching lately. So, as I mentioned in my last episode, I was watching Millennials versus Gen X. And interestingly enough, that was one of the seasons that going into my Survivor journey, I wanted to watch because, and I was thinking about this the other day because I'm like, I knew about I knew of Zeke. Like, before I started watching Survivor, there was very little I knew about Survivor, like of the people. I really only knew of the Survivor players who had been like on Traders. I really didn't know much about Survivor. That's just my honest truth. And so I really didn't know much about like different Survivor contestants beyond the ones that had been on Traders. And Zeke was somebody I knew about because he was in a documentary, or maybe it wasn't a documentary. I think it was a documentary. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but it was like I can't remember what it was called. Let me Google it. It was on Netflix, and I watched it in college because I took an Intro to Queer Studies class. Disclosure. Yeah, okay. That was the documentary I watched, I think. Unless it came out. I need to show when it came out. Yeah, okay, it was Disclosure. I just wanted to check because I'm like, if that came out after when I no, but that was the documentary I watched, and he was in it talking about like his experience on Survivor. So I knew that whole story. Like, I knew of him going into my Survivor journey, and so I did want to watch his seasons just because I really like. I loved that documentary. I remember watching it in that class, which I loved taking that class. Like, sorry, not to go on a tangent, but I went to a liberal arts college, and as many issues as I had with the institution of my college, I really loved the liberal arts education. And like, even with all of the like diversification requirements I had, and then also the requirements for my major, I still had so much space in my schedule to take like a variety of things that I wanted to take. Like, I literally, my last 2 years of college was taking so many drama classes for no reason, just because I wanted to take drama classes because I love theater and it was so fun to act. I also took a lighting design class, which was so fun. Like, I just really, it was so funny too. I'll never forget in my lighting design class, um, my lighting design professor at some point had asked me if I had done my thesis yet. And I was like, yeah, I did it like last year. And she was like, for drama? And I was like, I'm not a drama major. I was like, I'm just an English major because I was taking so many drama classes. I would have tried for a minor if that happened, if they had that in my college, but it wasn't an option. I would have been a drama minor if I wanted to, but I started taking drama classes too late in my in I also don't think I would have wanted to double major. I barely graduated with the one major. I College was hard for me. But anyways, I but I really loved that. Like, the fact that I had space to fill in my schedule and I didn't have any requirements left to do for anything that I needed to do. So I took an intro to queer studies class. It was super great. I was like one of the only upperclassmen in that class, and it was actually so fun. It was so great. It was so great. Side note, I'll never forget this because it was so not funny because I'm not trying to mock. I'm not trying to mock. But at some point, the conversation of insurance came up. I don't remember. I think maybe it was something we were talking about. Like, I imagine it has something to do with trans issues and access to medical care, or maybe just access to medical care in general for queer people. I just know that obviously trans people face a lot of barriers to receiving like proper health care, and it's getting worse and worse. But anyway, the conversation of insurance came up in this class, and most of these 18-year-olds didn't know how insurance worked. And we did like a little mini side tangent class where like half of the class, the professor just explained how insurance worked and co-pays worked and this, that, and the other. Which, like, you know what? Shout out to professors like that who like. There was also we did like an extended like safe sex like lesson. Great things that I think, especially for an intro to queer studies class, an intro class for all these majority freshmen. I was one of the only upperclassmen. I remember because it's like when you're registering for classes, there are some classes that like the underclassmen can only take intro classes. So you need to like wait your turn. So I went to the class before registration ended and I was like, if there's space, can I join? And I was able to join. I really liked that class. But anyways, so I had known of Zeke. He was one of the only people I knew about who hadn't been on like another show simply because of like his story. And like I understand that's also probably like unfortunate and like he's turned it into a positive, but I'm sure that was a very difficult situation that he was in. I haven't watched Game Changers yet, which is when the very unfortunate situation of him being outed happens. But I really liked him in Millennials versus Gen X. I talked about this in my last episode, but I just love the themes. I love the themes, and I really enjoyed watching Zeke play. And I do remember from like a lot of like when that whole situation happens, he's like, I wanted to just be known as Zeke, and I really enjoyed getting to know him as just Zeke. Great, I enjoyed watching him play. I enjoyed watching him like blossom. His story with Brett when they're on a reward and Brett is like, "You're not the only gay guy out here," and they like bond, and it was like it was nice. It was nice. I enjoyed watching Zeke play, and I generally really liked the Millennials versus Gen X theme. It was so funny to me, especially now, like however many decades later, and like I know I like generations. There's obviously always such a gap, but I think with technology and things changing so rapidly, I think there's even greater gaps between generations in a lot of ways. And maybe in a lot of ways, there's also less gaps between generations. I don't really know. But it's like, I even think about, I feel so far away from people, honestly, even who are in college now, who like are technically not in a different generation from me, but I just didn't have to go to like when I was in college, like AI wasn't the thing that it is now. It wasn't this like widespread thing of people. Like I remember those like bot things that were like, oh, you need to write a paper, I'll write a paper for you. And you would like I got, one time I tweeted something about needing to write a paper and I got a bunch of spam replies being like, but it wasn't like this thing where it was like you had like AI at your fingertips to like write things for you or source things for you or like just give you therapy. Sometimes the way people use AI, I don't know. Like that wasn't an experience that I had. And so I even feel like there's such a different experience right now that people in college are probably having than the one that I had. Just because of how rapidly technology changes. But I just love the theme of like the generations of it all was so interesting to me, especially watching it like it's dated now because it's like millennials. It means a different thing now. In some ways, and obviously in some ways it doesn't. But it's like the millennials aren't like the young kids the same way that it was then. Not that they're old; they're not old. I'm just saying like I'm Gen Z. You know what I mean? Like a millennial to me is somebody who is my superior, but on the show, they're like it's just so fascinating. And I like the way that the little like generational differences. I just love a theme. I love a survivor theme, and I have to say, Gen X versus Millennials is also really good because the winter arc is like so good and so heartfelt, and like he played a great game. He was a unanimous winner. Spoiler, I know the season's been out, okay, but I knew the person who won that season, like his mother was sick, and so when he talked about his mother being sick, I knew that he was the one who was going to win, which was then nice because then I got to watch like his story unfold. And there were moments where I was like, if I didn't know that he was the winner, I'd be worried that he was going home or like it was a journey to get there, and it was really really lovely to watch. And he played really well, and the story at the end with his mom, I was sobbing watching the finale. Um, and I like want to cry thinking about it now. It's been like a week since I finished the season, but it was just so moving and heartfelt, and I loved the fact that like on the live show, he's like they started they were like you can donate here for lung cancer research, and then he donated some of his prize winnings to that fundraiser, and it was just like it was really heartfelt and really emotional, and I'm really glad that he got to play when he did, and that it like I brought his family a lot of comfort in those very difficult months because grieving and navigating illness and then also death and like it's all so heavy, and I'm glad that he had like a bright spot in all of that. And I was like genuinely sobbing watching it, even though I went into the season knowing the general arc of his story that his mother did pass away before the live finale. Like I knew all of that, and it still just hit me so hard. Like he could barely get a word out trying to like talk about it because it was so emotional. It was such a beautiful story. He even said in the live finale, he's like, I know it's like a beautiful story, but it's like it's my real life. So like I don't want to say story in that like it's not real, but I mean it was just so it was compelling television. Like it was so heartfelt and devastating. And he also played a really good game. Like he played a really good game and up against the people he was up against, like I do. I thought it was so funny. I mean, it wasn't funny, but like in the final three, it's like him, Hannah, and then I don't remember the other guy's name. But Hannah has such a like and anytime he answers a question at tribal about like what he did, Hannah would be like, "Well, I actually that was like it was so funny the way that they were like conflicting at the final tribal council. I was laughing like that. The final tribal was kind of funny when anything that he would say, she'd be like, "Well, actually, I did that on purpose, and it was to help my game." Because he'd be like, sometimes my alliance wouldn't do what I wanted, and then she'd be like, "Well, actually, I made the decisions for my game." Or at some point, he in like the finals, one of the it's Hannah, and I don't remember his name. I'm gonna Google it because I feel really bad just not saying his name. Okay, it was Ken. How could I forget? They literally at the beginning of the season, he was told that the millennials were calling him like Ken, and he was like, "Oh, who wants to be called Ken?" Whatever. How could I forget his name? Anyways, Ken was like very, very loyal. Okay. And Adam had to convince, like at the end, Adam convinced him to like betray somebody who he was super aligned with. And they gave Adam credit for that, which I think rightfully so, because if Adam hadn't like pushed for it, Ken wasn't going to do that on his own. Maybe he was. It is an edited show. I don't know these people's thought processes, but Ken was very much in the edited show, articulating a game of like loyalty, of like I'm not going to betray the people that I whatever. And it did appear from the edited show that if Adam hadn't pushed and convinced, that Ken wouldn't have cut the people like and but even like Ken was annoyed with them giving Adam credit. Like everybody was giving Adam credit, and both Hannah and Ken were like annoyed in the final three. But it was a great season with like a beautiful ending. Like I've been really lucky in that I've watched like I've hand picked the seasons that I've watched. So most of them have had winners that are like I've gone into the season being like, I know this season is good in some capacity, so the winner's good. Maybe the winner isn't who I specifically would want, but it was still like a good story. Like David versus Goliath, the winner of that season, it wasn't really any of the people I was rooting for, but it was such a good season regardless. But like overwhelmingly, the seasons I've gone into, like that I've watched, the winners have been good winners. Okay. They've been like good arcs, good stories. So I understand that I have like I'm only watching the great seasons of Survivor, and maybe even not great seasons, but like good winner arcs. I don't know if I talked about this in my last episode, but I watched Survivor Second Chances, and I didn't know who won that season going into it. And a few like episodes into it, my sister was like, "Who do you think wins?" And I was like, "I really hope it's Jeremy." Like I'm feeling like it's Jeremy, but I don't know if I just have a bias because I know Jeremy was on Traders, and I feel like the only people who've been on Traders. Well, actually, that's not true because Suri was on. But Suri's like one of the greats. She's like one of the best to never win. But I don't know. I was like, I feel like Jeremy has to be a winner to have gone on Traders because not that he's not iconic. I loved his performances, but I feel like Cherie and Jeremy are like in different categories. Jeremy's not a winner, if that makes sense. Like just based on the amount of time she's played, the era that he started in, because his first season I think was 29. That's not the same as like Cherie, who like was on one of the earlier seasons and then came back during fans versus favorites, came back again. Like she's been around longer than Jeremy was. Like I went in, I feel like on some level I was like, I think Jeremy has to win because he was on Traders. And he was also getting a really good edit. So I was like, I really hope it's Jeremy, but I don't want to get my hopes up. And I honestly liked most of the people. Like there wasn't anybody in Second Chances that I like really hated. Even Spencer from Cagayan, when he was on Second Chances, and he got to the finals. I didn't want him to win, but I wouldn't have been mad at him winning, if that makes sense. Like there was. I mean, actually, at that point, I would have been mad because Jeremy wouldn't have won, and Jeremy deserved it over Spencer. Did I? Is this me? Yes, and and he won unanimously, another unanimous winner. So, like, a few of the seasons, now a few of the seasons I've watched have been unanimous winners. Just Jeremy, Adam, and then I watched JT on Token Teams. How many unanimous win? Actually, I don't want to Google that because then I'll find out who the winners are. But I know unanimous winners aren't like super common. I don't think they're super rare, but I don't think they're super common. I really don't know. I really don't know. I think honestly, when it's a final three, that like a unanimous winner feels so impressive to me because I'm like, it could very easily be split between three people. But so- I don't even remember what tangent where I started. But I really like millennials. I really liked millennials versus Gen X. I really miss the themes. I really miss the themes. Like we need to bring back the themes. Blood versus Water, so good. Second Chances, so good. Heroes Villains, best season ever. Like the themes add so much. Like I was talking to my sister about Heroes Villains because we're both subscribed to the America Corey Patreon, and they're watching Heroes Villains right now. America for the first time. Corey's obviously seen it, and so I'm rewatching it because they're watching it now, and even like the dynamics of like obviously they're all returnees, but there's like such a like different attitude they have to like, okay, you're labeled a hero, you're labeled a villain. So then it's like if anybody on the villains tribe does something, it's like, see, that's why they're villains. And then the heroes have like a chip on their shoulder that they need to be good, they need to be honest. Like all of these, it's so funny, the dynamics of it. Again, the generations comes up even in not that I don't think you like I'm not saying that a moment like that couldn't happen in a season without a theme or in one of the modern seasons, but I think even the conversation that Brett and Zeke had when they talked about like Brett being like, I'm gay, you're not the only gay guy out here, and it was different in my generation, and then Zeke in his confessionals is talking about how like he owes a lot to Brett's generation for pioneering the way. Like I, even like the fact that there were two different generations and they could then weave that into the way that they were talking about connecting to each other on this very like even that I feel like again intertwined with the themes where I'm like we need to bring the themes back, we need to bring the themes back. But I really liked millennials versus Gen X. It's not my favorite season I've watched, but it was a good one. I think honestly, like Heroes Villains hard to beat. I really loved Second Chances. I don't think I would have loved it as much if Jeremy didn't win, but it also just had a really good cast. Like I really liked the Second Chances cast. I loved the Blood versus Water that Natalie won. That was so good. I'm just a big fan of the themes. I have to say, even when the theme is like not that interesting, I really like it. I started watching. Now I don't remember what the. Oh, okay. I can't remember what number season that is. It's 20. I think it's 23. I'm watching the season where South Pacific. I'm watching South Pacific. I'm only 4 episodes in, maybe 5 episodes in. It's the season that Coach and Ozzy come back and they're like on separate tribes. This is also the first season that I've watched that has a Redemption Island aspect to it. I have yet to, like, this is the first season, and I hate that mechanic. Like, I don't like Redemption Island. Am I the only one who doesn't? I don't know why I ask a question like that. I'm obviously not the only person who doesn't like a Redemption Island, but like, I really don't like Redemption Island. And I know that I don't know if that was like the second season it was introduced or when Redemption Island was introduced. Again, I would Google these things, but I really am trying not to spoil myself. Like, I don't know who wins South Pacific. I know people who don't win. Like Russell Hance's nephew, I know he doesn't win. He comes back. Like there are some people that I know don't win the season. What's his name? The nerdy guy who's like so. I think he goes on to win, but he doesn't win this season, and I can't remember his name. But I really like him. I really like him. I'm gonna Google the cast. John Cochran. How could I forget John Cochran? I'm like, I was gonna say 99% sure, but I'm 100% sure he comes back and wins. And I really like him. I know he doesn't win this season. And I don't know who wins. I know South Pacific is the season that Coach gets to the end and that he like low key has little Colts and like I'm not quite there yet. And I do think it's interesting. I'm interested to see Coach's arc because in the first episode, they don't really like him. Anyways, sorry, that wasn't the point. Okay, I hate Redemption Island. I hate Redemption Island. I know literally one of the people who gets voted out in one of the early episodes talks about like I'm hoping that I can come back at the end, like X, Y, and Z. Like somebody I know there's a history of a Redemption Island season where somebody is like on Redemption Island for the majority of the time and then they come back and they make it to the end. I hate that mechanic. One of the last tribals I watched, somebody gets eliminated and like they get voted out. And at the end, and coach is like, let's hug her. And she like doesn't want to hug them. And she's like, it's not genuine. And in my brain, because I'm not used to Redemption Island thing, I'm like, well, why wouldn't you think it was genuine? You're not on the jury. There's no reason they would be nice to you. But it is calculated because she could come back. So like, I don't like that. I don't like a mechanic in the game where somebody could be out of the game for the majority of the time and then win. Because it's like, yes, we're not technically out of the game. It's not like you fly home or whatever, but it's like not. And I guess it's not really like the same as like if you go back to like a Ponderosa where you're like not still surviving the elements. Like you're surviving the elements, but it's like Survivor is a social strategy game. If you're not actively playing the dynamics of your tribe, or then when the tribes merge, the one big tribe you're part of, then like what is the fun of playing Survivor? Like I hate the mechanic. I hate the mechanic. I'm not at the point yet where it goes away and the person just joins. I don't know how it works. I'm not a fan of it. I think that's lame. And I also like not that I don't think people should have opportunities to like get back into a game once they've been eliminated. But I most of the time genuinely don't like battle backs or like a redemption island where somebody I don't like those things because I think that staying in the game, not being voted out is like a huge part. Like to me, that's one of the most important parts of the game. And yes, winning competitions and in Survivor, like winning an individual immunity or tribal immunity so that you don't have to go to tribal. But then post merge, like winning individual immunity when you need to, like super useful. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with like a clutch comp win that like you would have gone, but then maybe you can. But like my point is that if you are not able to save yourself from being voted out, I just don't think that you should go back into the game. And I do think that there's like a different approach. Obviously, maybe they're having to eliminating people because of the Redemption Island, but so far the people they've been voting out haven't been like comp threats where I think they're thinking they're going to get back in. So to me, I hate it. I hate the mechanic. I don't like the opportunity to get back into the game in this way and the way that it happens where it's like I'm really not a fan of it. I'm enjoying the season otherwise. Russell Hantz's nephew is actually so funny. There are things I don't like about him, okay? But my sister had told me that she watched the season and Russell Hanson, his nephew, was on it, and that he has a tattoo that has the hands on it, and so he was trying to hide it. And I thought it was a time, like I didn't think it's like half of his, like it's a huge tattoo. I thought it was like somewhat of a small tattoo, but he was just hiding it so nobody would be like, "What does that tattoo say?" No, it's like huge. Okay, he tells Coach, "I'm Russell Hand. My tattoo says hands on it," and he goes, "That's not your last name, is it?" It's like, no, he's just a huge Russell Hantz fan. What would be worse? Like, I don't know. And I do feel kind of bad for him. You know what? It's kind of giving Descendants when they're like, we're not our parents. Because out of tribal, his tribe, they're like, it is always it is always in the back of my mind that that's who his uncle is. I'm like, he can't control that. Okay, get mad at him for things that have to do with him. And you know what? It's little things like that that make me wonder how Jared Fields would have done on Survivor just based off of like being Cerie's son. Because when he went on Big Brother, he explicitly was not saying that he was Cerie's son. But from my understanding, his story on David versus Goliath, which is the season that he was supposed to be on, would have been that he was like a Survivor legacy. So he was going to be on like the Goliath tribe as like the son of a iconic player. So I think he would have explicitly been Cerie's son in the game. And I think that would have been very interesting to see how his dynamic would have played. Like, I don't know. I didn't like how he played in Big Brother. But anyways. But yeah, those are the seasons that I've been watching lately. I don't know if there are any seasons that I have watched that I haven't talked about. I'm enjoying South Pacific so far, minus the annoying battle back Redemption Island thing. I hate Redemption Island, not a fan. Coach has grown on me. Okay, I hated Coach. My first introduction to Coach was Survivor 50. So I started watching Survivor 50 as it was airing live, and then in the time that Survivor 50 aired, I watched a few seasons, and I hadn't seen the only other season that I had seen him in was like when 50 was airing. I was watching him on 50, he pissed me off, and then I watched him on Heroes Villains, and he was kind of annoying on Heroes Villains, but like not super annoying on Heroes Villains. But just like there was nothing in Heroes Villains to like. Then I watched him in Token Teens, and he was kind of funny on Token Teens, okay? And he was like, and now that I'm watching him on South Pacific, and the dynamics are different, he's a funny character. He's a funny character. Do I think that if I was playing Survivor, I would be annoyed by him? Yeah, like all those things that like people are annoyed by him. I think he's annoying, okay, in a lot of ways. He's also a very funny character, and I understand why they kept bringing him back. Like the more I watch the Coach, the more I'm like, okay, he's kind of funny. Like I didn't mind him in Heroes Villains. There was just so much in that season that honestly, Coach wasn't like annoying to me. Like honestly, I can't remember watching. The only person I found annoying, like frustrated, that it like really upset me to watch in Heroes Villains was Russell. Like I just found him so annoying and insufferable, and like which I found out that I did know that he obviously filmed Heroes Villains before Samoa aired, but what I didn't realize is that Russell went into the filming of Heroes Villains thinking that he had won Samoa. And that really changed my perspective on his Heroes Villains run because I remember in the first episode he was talking about how he had like was the best to ever play or like he was a legend. And I remember looking him up and being like, did he even win his season? And he hadn't won his season. And I was like, why does he think he's one of the best to play if he didn't even win? And not that I think you have to be a winner to be an iconic player, but it's like, I wouldn't call yourself the best player ever if you just played and you didn't win. I think if you just played and you didn't win, you should be like, okay, what can I do to redeem myself? But I knowing that he didn't go into it with that perspective because he didn't think that he was a loser really makes sense. Really makes sense with the way that he played. I want to watch Smo eventually. I want. I care more about South Pacific, and then I'm gonna watch Game Changers. Game Changers doesn't seem like that. Like I don't know. I need a palate cleanser before I get to Game Changers. Because Game Changers is like a bunch of people that like the people that I would care about go home early. Then Zeke gets hate crimed basically. It's not hate crime, but it was really disgusting what happened to him. Then um then Cherie gets twist screwed, which obviously none of the game things are worse than what happens to Zeke on a personal level. Like I do want to watch Game Changers, but I do know that there are a lot of negative things about Game Changers. Anyways, so I needed a palate cleanser, but I'm really hating the Redemption Island of it all. But I don't remember what other seasons I've watched that I haven't talked about. I really like Millennials versus Gen X. So fun to watch in the present day when generations feel even more divided than ever. But I don't know. I've been talking about Survivor for a hot minute, so I'm going to move on to some other shows that I wanted to talk about because I don't want to ramble too long about too many things. So I'm going to keep it pushing. I wrote down the shows that I wanted to talk about so I don't forget. Here are my very brief thoughts on Love Island season 8. In some ways, I'm more invested in the season than last season, and in other ways, I'm not. I find it so interesting. I've seen a lot of people who like say that like when even like Tana Mojo, she posted on TikTok, she was like, I'm not watching Love Island because last season, like, I got so invested that like it stopped me from like living my life. Like, I was thinking about it all the time. I was like in nice places, and I needed to like make sure that I was watching the finale. Like, I was too invested in it. Like, I couldn't watch it casually. And interestingly enough, I've just never had that relationship with Love Island. Like, I watch it very passively, and most of the time I watch it while I'm at work. It's like in an earbud, and I'm not even watching the screen. I'm just listening to what's happening. I genuinely, for the first like week, I didn't know what anybody looked like. Like I knew generally what they looked like, but I couldn't tell you like looking at a picture who was who because I was just listening to them. So Love Island for me is something that genuinely it doesn't consume me. I'm not invested in it at all, but I am invested in it. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I'm tuned in, I'm watching, I know what's going on, I'm engaging in the discourse, but I don't have much of an emotional connection to any person. Because here's the thing about Love Island is like I kind of start to like somebody and then they do something that annoys me and then I'm like, I don't really like there's not really any one person who I've been like ride or die with so far in this season. I was sad when Beatriz went home, although I think it was probably for the best. Like I don't know. The thing about Beatriz is that she's so level headed and like calm, cool, and collected that I'm like, what is she gonna like? I would understand why maybe she would like, not that she wasn't adding things to the show because she did have that whole confrontation with Melanie, which was very interesting to me. And at the time, I was like annoyed with Beatriz, and then my opinion changed. And like in the moment, I was like, I'm on nobody's side, and now I'm still on nobody's side. But like, I understand where Beatriz was coming from. I do think Melanie overreacted. The thing that would annoy me if I was Melanie was like you speaking on somebody else's behalf. I'd be like, okay, well, if I don't remember, was it Kenzie, the person? I don't remember. If I would be like, okay, well, if Kenzie had an issue, Kenzie can talk to me. Like, I wouldn't, that was the one thing that would annoy me. But Melanie, obviously, like, you know, Melanie's biggest issue to me is how invested she is in Sincere. Like, and don't even get me started on Sincere. What a funny name. Actually, okay, I'm not trying to insult his name because I really hate that thing that people do where these people are naming their kids such weird things. Like the kid's gonna get bullied. I don't like that attitude because it's like you're kind of bullying a kid already. It's like, yeah, maybe parents should name their kids weird things, but it's like at that point, you just talking about how weird their name is just being mean to them. I don't know. I think we just need to teach people. And here's the thing. Yes, it's true that people sometimes name their kids like things that seem weird. And you're like, why would you name your kid that? But I think that this attitude of that's a weird name. Like kids are gonna get bullied for weird names. I think that just bleeds into like anybody who has an unusual or uncommon name for any reason. And so I just think we need to shift the perspective instead of it being like, oh, that kid's gonna get bullied because it has a weird name or because they have a weird name. Like that's, in my opinion, a very unhealthy, dangerous way to view names because it's like, then what happens if somebody comes in with the name that isn't traditional to the area because of like whatever. Like, obviously, my name isn't like super weird, but I didn't know any other Emilianas growing up. So then it's like people didn't know how to pronounce my name. People didn't care to learn how to pronounce my name. Like all of these things that it's like that just bleeds into people who have like different names for whatever reason the names are different. So while I think that somebody naming their kid, like a white person naming their kid Apple might seem like weird and it's like, why are you naming your kid Apple? Like that kid should be named Susan so they're not bullied. It's like, okay, but then what happens when that person has, I just don't like this conversation. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that tangent. I felt a little, I felt instant guilt for making fun of Sincere's name. I simply think it's ironic. And I made this joke on TikTok and I thought it was the funniest thing ever, but like, it wasn't that funny. Okay. It's just, these are the things that my brain thinks are so funny. Okay. In Wizards of Waverly Place, Max has a tutor named Tutor because in the world, like elves name their kids what they want their kids to grow up to be. And I was like, imagine your Sincere's mom being like, "This is a beautiful name." You're manifesting something beautiful for him, and then he's very, very insincere. I genuinely just don't understand. I mean, I guess I kind of do. I'm not going to say I've never told somebody just what I thought they wanted to hear instead of telling them the truth. But the thing about me is I'm not a good liar, so I very instantly am like, that I feel really bad about lying. And if there's anything I've learned from my experience lying, is that most of the time, because the thing is, especially when you're on TV and there's literal like recorded evidence of you saying something and then doing the exact opposite, there's no point in not just being honest and being like, yeah, I do want to explore. When she's like, so are you open to exploring soul and your other connections? What's the point of being like, no, I'm locked in on you? She asked you, she gave you the opportunity. You could have said, yeah, you know what, I do want to explore that. But you said no. And then what did you do? You did keep exploring that. So it's like, what was the point? One, you're recorded, but two, just in general, if there's anything I've learned about human connections, and because I'm somebody who's scared to upset people, somebody who's scared sometimes to be like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't do the thing that I was supposed to do, or I did the thing wrong, or like, I get anxious to disappoint people. I get anxious to be like, no, actually, but it just hurts you in the long run to be dishonest. Like most of the time, if you're like, I'm so sorry, you're right, I that might be hurtful, but I do want to keep exploring this connection. That is less upsetting than being told one thing and then you doing the other, because that is more psychologically damaging. Especially if you're going to somebody and you're being like, "Hey, do you want?" Like she opened the door for you. It wasn't even like you would have had to propose it. This it's not similar, but I just got really annoyed because I remembered something that happened in the summer I turned pretty. Obviously, it's not the same. There are different situations, but something that always bothered me in the summer I turned pretty is that Belle literally gives Jeremiah the perfect opportunity to be like, "Yeah, I am kind of upset with you because she points out that he's been acting weird since he got home from being with his parents or his dad and visiting his mom's grave. What happened when he went to visit his dad? He found out that Belly and Conrad were in the beach house at the same time in Christmas, and Belly never told him. So what could he have done in that moment if he was a healthy, mature person? Been like, hey, I actually, yeah, this has been bothering me. I heard this when I was out there that you and Conrad were at the house at the same time and you didn't tell me that, and it's been making me feel bad because obviously you have a history and like I don't want to seem insecure and I know that's annoying, but like why didn't you tell me? I don't like, but no, instead he picked a fight, broke up with her, slept with somebody else. Anyways, hate that man. I just like when somebody literally gives you the perfect opportunity to be like, yeah, actually, this might suck. I hate saying this, but I do want to explore. Or like, yes, this like something has been bothering me. I think you know, it's like earlier today, I was at Trader Joe's and they were out of toilet paper, and I needed toilet paper. And when I got to the cashier, they always ask you, did you find everything that you need? And most of the time I say yes. And this time I said, you know what? I'm gonna ask. So I said, actually, do you guys happen to have toilet paper? Because you're out there, but like, and then they checked in the back for me. So it's like, what would, I didn't even have to go up and ask somebody. They brought the opportunity to me. I would have squandered that by not saying, yeah, I actually do need toilet paper. And you know what? I got my toilet paper. So it's like when somebody gives you an opportunity to say what you need to say, to have a conversation that needs to be had, why are you running away from it? They're giving you the opportunity. Like that just annoys me about Sincere. But also, I wanted to like Zach because in the last month, grew a fondness for his brother Charlie because he was on a podcast I really like, and he was so funny on that podcast. So when I found out his brother was going on Love Island, I was like, you know what? I didn't really have any feelings towards Charlie last season. I didn't have negative feelings towards him. I had very neutral feelings. For me, when it comes to the Love Island men, it's either a neutral feeling or it's a negative one. I very rarely have a positive feeling of the men on Love Island. Now, I've seen 2 seasons. Most of the season, the men last season, I had neutral feelings about, and then some I had negative feelings about. There was not a single man that season that stood out to me where I was like, I kind of like them. No hate to them. I just simply am indifferent to them. Okay. So I had no feelings towards Charlie before I watched him on this podcast. And he was so funny on the podcast that when I found out his brother was going on, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of rooting for his brother simply because I now have a parasocial fondness towards his brother. Okay. Zach has disappointed me. He was kind of nice at first. I thought the little will they, won't they, like the fact that people were shipping him and Bryce, that, that, that added something I was enjoying watching. Even Charlie, again, who I now have a bit of a parasocial little relationship with, made a TikTok being like, I've seen the edits. That cracked me up. But Zach is, I'm done with Zach. Okay. He's pissed me off one too many times. He's getting involved. I don't like it. I don't like the way he's sticking his nose into things. It's annoying me. Okay. It's annoying me. Don't you know America, the country, is the only one allowed to interfere with the relationships? Why are you like, it's so annoying to me. It's really pissing me off. It's really pissing me off. Okay. And I also don't like his dynamic with the girl he's with, where like they were going to the hideaway and then he was like talking about how he doesn't want to do things because what if a bombshell comes in later? It's like, what are you talking about? Like Zach has just completely lost me. Okay. I don't like Zach. Not that I particularly liked him before, but I was rooting for him. I wanted good things for him. And now I couldn't care less what happens to him. Okay. I'm over Zach. Again, not that I was particularly on the Zach train, but any fondness I had towards him, gone. Okay. The one guy whose name I don't know, he's new. He was one of the bombshells. He just had a conversation with Kenzie about 2020 vision that cracked me up. And I have no feelings towards him whatsoever, except the fact that I found that conversation enjoyable. Like it was so funny. It was so funny. Okay. Because she so confidently was like, she's like, oh, do you have really good vision? And he goes, yeah, I have 2013 vision. And she's like, I have 2030. And he's like, I think 2013 is better. And she's like, no. I was in nursing school. 2030 is better than 2013. And he's like, I always thought it was, the way he handled that was funny. And it was also really funny because I was just having a similar conversation with my sister because, as I said, I got new glasses. And I remember talking about like what 20, I'm like, 20/20 vision means that like you can see 20 feet ahead, what the average person can also see with 20, like a healthy eye can see 20 feet ahead. 20/20 vision means that from 20 feet, you can see what the average person sees from 20 feet as well. So 2013 vision means that you can see what the average person can see at 20 feet from 13 feet, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, you know what I mean? 2030, that means that what somebody can see from 20 feet, or maybe I'm confusing that. Now I sound like Kenzie. But you know what? I never claimed to go to nursing school or to know what I was talking about. And the only reason I even knew that was because in an episode of The Pit, somebody comes in with like blindness and they give her some kind of medication that could either make her go blind more or like, or not medication, but they give her some kind of treatment. I don't know what form it's in, I don't remember. But they give her something and her vision begins to improve and she has like 20 over 200 vision. And like that's the only reason I knew what that was from. So I'm not going to pretend that I am, know what I'm talking about. But I also, when it comes to most things, I do not feel confident in my intellectual abilities. Okay, so most of the time I was in this conversation and I said the thing, and somebody was like, even if I then thought it through a bit more, and I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because then what, like 2 over 200 vision, like that, you can, what somebody sees from 200 feet, like you have like supervision, like that wouldn't make sense if you flip it, because then it's like, okay, people with 200, like 20 over 400 vision exist. So does that mean that somebody from 4,000 feet away or 400 feet away can see something that, like, that wouldn't make sense? Does that mean that you just have like supersonic vision then? Because there are, like, it's not like it's only like 2020, 2010. Like it goes all the way to the hundreds. So like how does that make any sense in the inverse? Even if I thought it through and I was like, no, I don't really think that's true. I would never, like, if I just wouldn't, I wouldn't confidently be like, no, you're wrong. Like I can't. The only times I've ever been like, no, you're wrong very confidently have been about like movies. Okay. I one time I got into a fight with my sister about like a scene in The Parent Trap where I was like, no, I'm so sure that you're. And you know what? That was also me in high school. I don't even think that I would have that exact feeling now. I feel like I'd be like, I'm pretty sure, but like I don't remember, and then I'd Google it. Like I can't. I don't understand. I understand they can't Google things, but it's like, what's with the certainty of like, no, you're wrong, and then I'm gonna use my. I don't even feel like I have any authority or skill in the things that I have some authority and skill in, like things that I've been doing for a long time that I'm like, I know how to use InDesign fairly well. Do I think that if somebody was telling me, oh, no, you can't do this on InDesign, that I would be like, I mean, I would probably be like, no, I'm pretty sure you can do that on InDesign. But I wouldn't confidently be like, no, but you know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand that. And I feel very neutral to most people. Melanie, I have a love hate relationship with Melanie, okay? Because when she's entertaining, I really, really like her, but she does a lot of things that I'm like, you're losing me. Okay, you're losing me, Melanie. But I enjoy watching her. I enjoy watching her. Like I have a, like I do think that if Melanie left the villa, I'd be sad. So that's something. Like that's something to me. I don't particularly get super invested in the people on Love Island. So I think when there's somebody on Love Island who I feel like if they left the villa, I'd be sad. That to me means, I have a weird investment in Melanie. I really like, I want Melanie to stick around, even when she's annoying me. That's my truth. That's my truth with Melanie. Like, I don't think that I'm not like a ride or die Melanie can do no wrong. There are a lot of moments where I'm like, why did you do that, Melanie? But I have a fondness towards her. I can't lie. Like I like her. I really like Trinity. I really like Anaya. Like I like most of the women. I really like Trinity and I really like Anaya. And I wanted to like Casey and Anaya so bad, but Casey's annoying me now. I don't Again, I have a hard time with Love Island. And again, this is only my second season watching, but I have such a hard time with Love Island because it's like I want to root for these couples, but the men almost always disappoint me. Even like last season, Brian was like really supportive and helpful of Amaya. And even now in some of it, I was like, I feel like he's only doing this because like Amaya is like a fan favorite and he's trying to stay around. And like I don't think that I was wrong in that assessment, and I also know I wasn't like the only person who got that vibe. But like literally, they broke up super soon after. He was like super like shady to her. Like I don't trust the men on Love Island. I don't trust any of them, and I don't really like any of them. I don't. I wanted to like Casey, but he's really irritating me. Like there, a lot of them are just irritating. Bryce has been fine. I don't have any negative feelings towards Bryce. I'm indifferent towards him right now. The fact that he's paired up with Trinity gives me points. Okay, they're the only. I liked Casey and Anaya's dynamic, and then he started pissing me off. So right now, the only dynamic I kind of like is Trinity and Bryce. But even then, I feel like Trinity can do better than Bryce. Like I'm not locked in. Like I'm not shipping anybody. But I don't know how often it really comes around. I feel like season 6 just had so many couples that people were really rooting for that I just don't know if that's like, even like last season, okay, it was like People really liked Huda, so then it was kind of just like whoever Huda was paired up with. And then people really like, but that wasn't like, were people really, really in on the Huda of it all? I don't know. Like the like Huda and whoever she was with. I don't even remember his name. Well, I know she was with Jeremiah, but I don't remember who she was with later. It really doesn't matter. But like then there was the Maya and Brian. Again, they were kind of like, people only really liked Maya. I don't really think a ton of people like Brian. People like Brian because he was nice with Maya, you know? And then Nick and Andrea, which like I could never, they're still together and I wish them happiness and I liked Alandria and I felt indifferent towards Nick. Like he was funny, the Mama Sita, mom of what? Like he was funny, okay, but I didn't really have any feelings towards Nick. And then the Nick and Andrea was like, okay, they're cute, but it just felt like it was like America pushing them together and shipping them. I didn't really feel like they were, and they're still together, so I guess they got the last laugh. But at the moment, it didn't feel real to me. Okay, and not that any of Love Island really feels real, but it's like I don't want to get invested in the couples. Like I'm just not invested in them. I am gonna follow some of them after the season though. Like I'm gonna follow Beatrice. I'll follow Melanie unless they do something egregious. I'm gonna follow Trinity and Anaya. Like I'm enjoying them. I'm just not invested in the love of it all. And I really hated the challenge that where they splattered paint and they were all in a big bed. I'm not a big fan of the challenges and how like I don't know, call me a prude, okay? It's so much. It's so much. And I don't know if like I just blocked out that part of last season because when I think of last season, I don't think of how like eh, but even like the hideaway didn't, I saw somebody else mention this, but like the hideaway, they didn't send somebody to the hideaway until like way later in the season last year. It's I do think on some level they're leading a bit more with like the chemistry and the physical stuff than they did last season, and I just don't know if that's necessary. I don't really know if I like that, but that's all I have to say about Love Island. I had the Real Housewives of Rhode Island on here, but I honestly, I've been talking for longer than I thought I was going to. So I'm going to talk about Not Suitable for Work really quickly. And then I'll talk about the Real Housewives of Rhode Island next week. Because as I mentioned, I'm not really recapping any one show in particular. So I'll just ramble about the Real Housewives of Rhode Island in my next podcast episode. Because that season just wrapped up. I mean, the reunions airing still, but like the whole season one has aired. But anyways, not suitable for work on Hulu. I think like 7 episodes are out, and I'm really enjoying it. I am particularly really invested in Avantika's character storyline. Abby, her character's named Abby. Because basically, it's about these like 20 somethings that live in New York. They all live in the same building, and I can't remember her name, but I'm gonna Google the cast. But one of the characters is like moving in with her friend Abby, and then it's like two apartments, very friends in the sense that it's like two women live in one apartment, and then the men live in another apartment, all in the same building. Two of the characters work at an investment banking thing, and I really could not care less about the bank. Like I hate that storyline. I understand whatever it's necessary. She's dating her boss. I hate everything that has to do with the storylines around their workplace, okay? Because the guy who works there is like super enamored with the new girl who moves in and just started the job at the same investment banking firm. And I don't really like him as a character. Like, I think he's an interesting character, but I don't want them to be together. Then she starts sleeping with her boss, which like I hate on principle. And then at the same time, he's still like pining after her and she's sleeping with her boss all the while, which like whatever. I don't think she should be with him either, but I hate the fact that she's sleeping with her boss because it's like, hello, a HR violation, unbelievably unethical. Why? Enough, 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 enough. Okay. I hate that. I hate that storyline. He's like, again, super enamored with her. Then his friends find out that she's sleeping with her boss. They're like, and they want to tell him, but then the other guy finds out that his dad's like his parents are getting a divorce. And then the conversation shifts to him, which of the guys, I don't know. Okay. Because there's a character named Cal. Then I'm Googling the cast. My phone's just low battery, so I didn't want to. But so there's five main characters. Okay, three boys. Kel, we start the season, he's in med school. He drops out of med school because he wants to be an actor. Then he's also a substitute teacher, which I really like the storylines of when in he's a substitute teacher at like this all girls private school, and I love those storylines. I really like Kel. Then there's Josh, who I was gonna say he was my favorite of the male characters, but I think I like Kel a little bit more. I just relate to Josh more because he works for the news. And then the other character, Davis. Davis basically Davis, Kel, and then Josh live together, and Davis and Josh are staying up to like play video games and being very loud. And Kel's like, "Can you like please not? I have school, I have acting class." Like they're not taking his commitment seriously, and he's like, "I have an important job." And then Josh is like, "Well, not really. Okay, he's an investment banker, very stressful. I'm on the front line, journalism is dying, and I literally took a photo because it was so funny, and I'm like, this is how I talk about my job. Journalism is dying, and I'm fighting on the front line of truth, like so real. So like I relate to Josh because of the way that he views the news and like his job and journalism and like all of that. Okay, I find Josh endearing. He's also played by Lily Reinhardt's boyfriend, so I have a fondness towards him because I like Lily Reinhardt. Okay, that's my truth. I find him sweet. Like on social media. Okay. My cat Ernesto's here for the audio only listeners. So of the three, like I but I like Kel as a character more. Like I really like, but anyways, Kel at some point they're not taking him seriously. He moves in with the girls briefly. So then he finds out that he puts it together. Okay. He and Josh put it together. Josh puts it together because he sees the boss leaving Abby and AJ's apartment, and then he recognizes him from like a mug that Davis has of like his company, whatever. And so he puts it together. Eventually they tell Davis, and like I really want like the thing about Davis is like he very clearly romanticizes like what a relationship should be like, and it's like I don't know how much you actually like AJ, or you just like see her and on paper you think you should like I feel like a good arc for him would be like falling in love with somebody who like he doesn't like at first, or he doesn't think is suitable for him, or like really his type on paper, and then like somebody who he meets and off the bat doesn't have any like romantic feelings for, because clearly what we see from him is that he just gets enamored with people, and it's like you barely know AJ and you're like I'm obsessed with AJ. It's like you don't know her enough to like genuinely like her. You're just going off of like appearance and like you know what I mean? Like that is the thing that annoys me about Davis. So I hope his storyline is like he meets somebody who like he has nothing like feels nothing towards, and then that develops into something, and we can see like him actually develop a genuine romantic relationship that's not just based off of like a romanticized idea of like what a girlfriend should be, you know, like I find him annoying, but I do think that there could be an interesting arc for him if it's done well. I love Abby, she's my favorite character. I want to like AJ, but I hate the fact that she's an investment banker, and I'm really uncomfortable by the fact that she's sleeping with her boss. Okay, but I like her friendship with Abby, and like when she's not at work or sleeping with her boss, I enjoy her. She just stresses me out. And her mom was in the last episode, and she was played by the actress she played Becky in How I Met Your Mother, the Boats girl, and she was also Elle Woods on Broadway for the Legally Blonde musical. What a well-rounded actress. But anyways, so like the Davis AJ sleeping with her boss of it all, I don't care. Like I find it annoying. I want AJ to stop sleeping with her boss. I want Davis to get over AJ. I'm like done with that whole thing. Okay. And then we find out that Josh and AJ had like a history. They went to different colleges, but she did Model UN. So then they like debated each other, and they like hooked up, and apparently they were both each other's first time. And it was like, okay, that's cute. People are like, oh, they're building a long-term end game. And you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to that because I feel like they're different enough that they could be an interesting duo. I you know I think that could be an interesting duo. And then there's tension between Kel and Abby, and I would love that because I love Kel and I love Abby, and I think they would be a cute couple. And I think they also have a lot in common. Like they're very similar in the like they both have immigrant parents who like want them to do certain things, but like that's not really what they're doing. So I feel like they could connect in a lot of ways. And she was very encouraging to him when he was talking about how he just like really felt passionate about being an actor and he didn't care about like he really didn't want to go to med school, but he didn't want to let his parents down. Like I feel like there's I like them together, and I would like to see that happen. She is a celebrity stylist, and she like leaves. She's like an assistant of a stylist, and then one of the clients wants her to style him, so then she takes that role. Like she quits her job as the assistant to then be like his stylist, and then he drops her because he's in a movie playing George Washington, and he was doing all this research about how George Washington was an authentic guy, and like that direction that Abby was taking him in didn't feel authentic. I'm like, George Washington also owned slaves. Maybe you shouldn't like. Also, what the hell does that mean? George Washington was an authentic guy. Very, very odd. I really hope that character's gone though, because I really didn't like him either. Because he's somebody who was like, and I understand the whole thing. It's like it's about it's called not suitable for work. Okay, it's about like the workplace dynamics and how that bleeds into the love lives. I hate it. I hate that. Okay, it makes me uncomfortable that she was like the assistant of his stylist, and then he was flirty with her, and she's like, "We need to keep her professional." She leaves her job because he wants her to be his stylist, just her, not her boss. So she leaves that to be his stylist, and she's trying to cut her teeth in the industry with only one client and no styling connections because she left like her job, and then she doesn't want to do like whatever. And at some point, she has him meet up with Kel because he's an actor, and Kel is looking to be an actor about like getting an agent and everything. And he is like, if you talk me up to Abby, like I'm really interested in Abby. If you talk me up to her and like convince her to date me, I'll get you an agent. And he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that one because he likes Abby. So then he doesn't, and he doesn't get an agent, which is fine. He does manage to like sneak in, like he gets he gets in the last episode he got a role like a minor role on like Broadway, which is still really great. Like I'm excited for Kel's arc. I really like Kel, and I really like Abby. I don't know what's gonna happen for her now that her one client's gone, but I don't know. I'm enjoying the show. It's a very easy watch. Like the episodes are 30 minutes long. It's not super heavy. It comes out on like Monday nights, so like I really don't have much to watch Monday nights. So it's like it's been super like chill and fun to watch. And I don't know how many episodes there are because they're dropping like a lot at once. So I feel like it's going to be a bit of a bigger season. Because if not, they're kind of rushing through it. Because the first drop had 3 episodes, then the next drop had 2 episodes, and then the next drop had 2 episodes. So we're on episode 7. So I'm like, if you keep dropping 2 episodes at a time, like we're gonna be done really quickly if it's only like I hope there's like at least 15 episodes. I know How I Met Your Father, the last season of that before it got canceled on Hulu, that had like 20 episodes. So maybe if it's maybe Hulu, maybe for their 30-minute long shows, they're doing more than like 10 episodes. I don't know. I hope that it's not just 10 episodes. And it's from Mindy Kaling. I think she does things really well. I loved The Sex Lives of College Girls. I was sad when that ended. So it's nice to see something similar. I like the college era thing more, but maybe you know what? I'm not in college anymore. Maybe I should like this kind of era of. I wish it took place in LA. I know everything takes place in New York, and that's great. And I'm happy for the people who live in New York. Okay, go Knicks! Congrats to them for winning. That was very exciting. Genuinely, I wasn't trying to like that was very. I'm really happy for the Knicks. But that's all I want to talk about. I'll talk about the Real Housewives of Rhode Island next episode because I wrote that down in my notes, but I don't know what I would say about that right now, and I feel like I talked a good amount about other shows. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. This episode should be out sometime Thursday. My goal is to have episodes out Wednesdays, Thursdays, depending on my work schedule and such. So stay tuned. Following me is the best way to get notified. If you have any shows that you want to hear my thoughts on, comment down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great week, and you will hear from me next week as a 27-year-old woman. That's crazy. Anyways, please say happy birthday in the comments, at least to my twin sister. You don't have to say happy birthday to me if you don't want to, but it would be nice.